Hello, and welcome to Tuesday Tea at 2, our weekly creator workshop. Today we're going to be talking all about working with artists, how to do it, why to do it, when to do it, all of the things. As usual, this has never been meant for me to just waffle on a bit about everything as if I am some sort of be-all, end-all authority on these things. I'm not. I can only tell you what I've seen, what I've learned, what's working for me, what's not working for me, and the things that I know just for myself coming from the industry that I came from before, becoming a content creator myself. To that end, nobody gets anywhere alone, and there's more than one way to do things. So, if you have any questions of your own that you would like to ask, or if you have any advice of your own that you would like to give, I invite you to jump on with me. We could talk about it, or you can answer your question, or we could talk about your advice, or that sort of thing. If you would like to do so, !ask for a question, or ! point in the chat if you have a bit of advice or a point that you would like to make. Just so that way we know to get you in the Discord and get you all set up and ready for that. And then we'll pull you into the live chat. Righty, you will appear in this nifty little box that will allow everyone to see who you are, know who's speaking, and know what is going on. I really do invite you to come up and do that. If you're watching the YouTube video and you have a point that you'd like to make that wasn't covered, or if you have a question that you would like to ask, I invite you to drop them down in the comment section below there. I do read and respond to every comment of substance down there, so feel free to use those. I would be more than happy to answer anything that crosses your mind related to the topic that we're talking about today. So, with that out of the way, we're going to be talking today about working with artists for money. Working with artists for money. A lot of us are going to need assets and going to need things from artists, whether you're a VTuber or not. Alright, VTubers, we tend to have to work with artists a bit more often than other streamers, other content creators do, simply because, well, look at us. Look at me. Look at me. This was done by an artist. Alright, pretty much everything you see here on the screen is art. We need backgrounds and we need assets and we need our models and that sort of thing. Whereas a face streamer might be able to just go out to the store, buy some stuff, set up an interesting background behind their camera and be good to go. VTubers, we don't have that. But for you face streamers, that doesn't mean you're never going to come across needing an artist, whether that be for outlines or overlays or borders or profile pictures or banners or panel images or whatever it is, thumbnails, whatever it is, chances are good you're going to need to work with an artist at some point. Now, the two main reasons that we work with artists is one, outsourcing for skills that you don't have. Maybe you're not an artist. Maybe you have no artistic talent whatsoever. Maybe you are an artist, but you want a different style from your art. Maybe you're a good artist, but you can't do animation. Whatever it is, if you're outsourcing to an artist, chances are good that it's for a skill that you don't have yourself. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. That's why commissions exist. It's true. It's true. The other reason that you might find yourself working with an artist is because you're outsourcing to save time. And as you go along this journey of content creation, you realise that time is something you're always going to be battling with. We've talked a bit about time management and how important it is when it comes to your project planning last week. And time really is important. And I know personally for me, I could sit here and I could just do art. I could just do art for what I need. And in fact, I have. When I ran into an issue with an artist for the Morbidity and Mythos logo that we're going to be using for the podcast that we're launching, the artist was not good. Not good. So I ended up sitting there and just making the logo myself. I'm more than capable of doing art, but it takes a long time. And the time that I spent working on that, I could have used elsewhere. I could have used with programming some upgrades to my Stream Deck or an OBS. I could have put it towards story writing or content planning or, community interactions and engagement or any other sort of thing. So outsourcing art and assets that you need created can save you a lot of time because it's somebody else's time that's going into that. Now, that said, a couple of reasons why working with artists can be so important, so invaluable, and just frankly inevitable at times. I'd like to tell you guys and share with you guys the outlines of the things that I would like to talk about today. Hello Darth, hello Phantom, hello Assassin Boy, it's good to see you. Hello Blobby, and hello Matteo. How are you guys today? So, today, as always, we're going to talk about 4 specific things. We're going to talk about where to find artists. Where do you find artists to work with to create the assets that you need or that you're looking for? We're going to talk about how to prepare for your interaction with this artist. Because of course, before you start talking to somebody about something you want to buy from them, you have to put some preparation in there. So we're going to talk about some of those things. Then we'll talk about how to actually communicate with your artist, with the person that you're commissioning, in order to get a good result with as little headache as humanly possible. Because let me tell you, working with artists can be such a headache. It can be such a headache, and it's not necessarily because particular artists have, issues or anything like that, but a lot of the time it's because we as creators are looking for a particular, outcome. We're looking for something. We have a plan. We're running a business, right? And we know what we need. And artists, they just sort of speak a different language from us, right? They're less concerned about timelines and that sort of thing, and they're really much more concerned about the artistic expression and getting things correct on their end. So it's really a matter of learning how to communicate from our side of the world to their side of the world. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then of course, we're going to talk about some best practices when it comes to working with artists. Because I always like to try to leave you guys with some things that you can do, that you can walk away from this stream and apply to yourselves, to your own content, to your own processes. So that way, you walk away with not just abstract ideas, but concrete ways in which to implement them. So, let's talk right at the start about where to find artists. And the very first thing that I need to stress to you guys, when you're looking for artists, alright? When you're looking for artists, I need to stress this to you. Fiverr is not the place to get your art. It's not. It's not. Similarly, I know in the VTuber sphere, there's this site called Skeb that everyone went nuts and mental over and was like, have to get my Skeb, have to get my Skeb, have to do it. And to be fair, there are good artists on Skeb. There are good artists on Fiverr. But not only do these websites take a lot of money away from the actual artists for their work, they also put you in a position where you don't get to really discuss the details of the project with your artist beforehand. You don't get to go back and forth on revisions and stuff beforehand, which means you've already placed your order and there's a deadline attached to your order by these websites. Just automatically, there's a deadline attached. And if your artist does not meet that deadline, their ratings go down. So they're kind of incentivized to just crank things out as fast as possible within the time limit, not necessarily what you're looking for, not necessarily what you need. And it's very difficult for them to be able to adjust to the different aspects and the different asks of what you need for your specific project if you did not get a chance to talk to them first. Now, a lot of artists on Fiverr in particular will ask you to message them and to DM them and that sort of thing, you know, before you place an order. They do have an option to create a custom order for you and that sort of thing. But even that, even sending them those messages, Fiverr tracks their response time. It tracks their response time. It tracks how long it typically takes them to reply to your messages. Which, if you're being tracked how long it takes to respond to a message, are you going to be as thorough and as complete with your questions and your answers and your details as you could be if you weren't on a timer? If you weren't on some artificial timer? No. Just no. No. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's the system that they're working in. But you want to try to avoid those things. You do. You very much want to try to avoid those things. Now, that's not to say that I haven't used Fiverr myself. I absolutely have. But it's always as a last resort. As a last resort, I will head to Fiverr. And I do so knowing of all of the pitfalls that come with having to use something like Fiverr. Alright? So Fiverr is not the place to start. If it can at all be avoided, avoid it. It's just going to lead to more headaches for you and a crappier product in the end, has been my experience. So, if you're not going to the big sites like Fiverr or Skib, where do you go? How do you find artists? Social media platforms. Go to Instagram, go to DeviantArt, go to Twitter. All of those places you can find pockets and hashtags and communities of people who take commissions. Who specifically want to take commissions, who want to be paid for their art. And we're not just talking, mind you, about art in terms of visual assets, but voice actors as well, if you happen to need those. You can find them on social media platforms. All you have to do is search for commissions. If you're in the VTuber sphere, finding commissions is so easy. It's so ridiculously easy on VTuber Twitter. Half the VTubers on there are artists themselves that take commissions. And a lot of the time they'll put right in their Twitter name, commissions open, commissions closed, find my commissions here, there or wherever. It's super, super easy to find these things. They're easy to find, guys, they really are. Utilise social media to find artists. It's super easy. It really is. You can also find artists on Discords. On Discords. They might be on your own Discord. They might be on someone else's Discord that you know. Additionally, there are Discords that exist that are specifically devoted to connecting artists with commissioners. I'm on a few. I use one pretty religiously. I've thrown a lot of money at independent artists on random Discords designed for people to sell their commissions, alright? Take advantage of those things. They are there. They're all over the place. If you're unable to find a Discord specifically for art, feel free to jump on my own Discord. In the Tea Party section, there is a channel for resources and templates. After the stream today, I will post some links to a couple of the Discords that I have personally used, that I had really good experiences in. So that way you have a good starting point. But utilise Discords. Utilise Discords to find artists. And of course, referrals. Referrals. If you need an artist, if you're in the market for something, ask around. Ask around. Ask other creators. If you see something really cool on someone's stream, be like, hey, that background is awesome. What artist did you use? Get referrals from them. Let them know, like, hey, I'm in the market for a new VTuber model. Who do you recommend? Who do you recommend? Ask around to other artists for their referrals, because you can get from other creators a good idea of what that artist's capability was like, what it was like working with that artist, if they had any complaints, if the artist had any pitfalls, if they ran into any problems. Talk to them. It is important to note here not to take a byline or a credit line as a referral. Now, what I mean by this is that on Twitch, I have a panel down there that gives credits. I have a credit panel on my Twitch page that says, you know, this bit was by this artist, and this artist did this, or this artist did that. And in the descriptions of my videos, I also have a listing of the artists that I'm giving credit for their work that they have done. Now, it should be noted that when I work with an artist, they're going to get credit for the work that they've done. Period. Full stop. Done. That's it. If you did work for me, if you did art for me, you're going to get credit for it. Now, that doesn't mean that every artist that I've worked with is someone that I would recommend you go work with. I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but I have absolutely worked with artists who are credited on my channel and on my videos as having done work because they did the work. But I would not want to work with them again. I would not want to work with them again, and I would not recommend that you work with them either. Alright? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to take away the credit for the work that they have done. And a lot of other content creators are going to be the exact same way. If you did the work, you get the credit, whether you're a nightmare to work with or not. Right? So I know it may be tempting to go through and look at other people's panels or other people's descriptions and be like, oh, well, this artist is credited here. They must be nice to work with. I should hit them up. Don't do that. Don't do that. If someone has a credit panel or an artist listed in their description, ask them about the artist. Ask them for their referral. Ask them what it was like working with that artist. If you get a good referral, if you get a good review and they're like, oh yeah, they were great. For example, Zedon. I've worked with an artist called Zedon, which would be Laz_U on Twitter. They're also on Discord, but their Discord is private, so you'll have to get that from them directly. They have done amazing work for me. Working with them is always, oh my gosh, it's so easy. Communicating with them is fantastic. They're always on time. They always give updates. Their pricing is fair. It's wonderful. I recommend them to everyone all the time, to the point that I recommended them to so many people that I found myself on a wait list when I needed more things. Yep, sang their praises just a little too hard, but I genuinely mean it, and it was absolutely worth it. They're a fantastic, wonderful artist. So if you were to ask me, hey, I need a background, or I need animation, who should I work with? I will tell you, go to Zedon every single time. That's going to be my answer. But if you were to ask me, you know, who should I go to for animal drawings, let's say, I'm probably going to give you a different answer than what you might find in my descriptions or in my credit panels. So it's very important, if you're looking for artists and you're looking for referrals, that you actually talk to the person about what working with them was like. Don't just see their tag somewhere and assume, oh, well, they use them, they must be wonderful. Just don't. Just don't. Pay attention. It's important. So, we know a bit about where to find artists and a bit of what to watch out for when we're looking for an artist. Let's talk about how to prepare to actually sit down, have a conversation with an artist and commission them for your work. Because before you reach out to an artist, you need to be prepared. And this is something that I say in every single one of these videos, every single one of these workshops. If you thought you're going to escape it this time, nope. No, just no. You should know by now. Have a plan. Have a plan. That's right. That's right. Content creation is 90% planning. I'm convinced. I'm convinced that it is. Have a freaking plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't really have anything. And that applies to commissioning as well. So with your content, with what you're trying to do, you should have a plan. Have a plan for what you want your final outcome to look like. So that way, you know your needs. You need to know your needs when you're going to commission an artist. Now, knowing your needs is not just knowing what I want things to look like, but you also need to know what size does something need to be? What resolution do you need? What file format do you need it delivered in? You also need to know your time frame. You need to know how quickly you need something. Because it's very important to realise, when you're commissioning an artist, yes, they need time to do what they do, but you're on a deadline as well. You have a plan for your content and you know when you need something by. And if you're talking to an artist and they can't deliver what you need in that amount of time, then either you need to adjust your timeline yourself, or you need to find a different artist that can provide what you're asking for in the proper amount of time. We'll talk about this a little later on, but you need to know your needs, alright? It's very important that you have a plan so that you know your needs and you have your needs ready to go. Once you have your plan for what you need and you know what your needs are, you should prepare a proposal. Prepare a proposal. Sit down and write it out. I'm not saying, it needs to be a 30-page legal document of your proposal. No. But you should sit down, jot down a couple of paragraphs, a couple of lines about what you need and what you're looking for. What I normally do is I write out the type of work that I'm looking for, the file formats that I need, the turnaround time that I'm looking for, my approximate budget that I am looking to spend, although I usually am pretty flexible about it. If I'm looking to spend, around $60, I will say so. I'll say looking for around $60, but flexible. I can go up or down depending. Most of the time you'll go up. Very, very rarely will you go down. So keep that in mind. And then I also write out a text description of what I'm looking for. And I also try to do a little quick sketch. And stick figures, lopsided stick figures are totally fine. Just to have a sort of visual to explain to someone what I'm looking for. Write all of that down. Write all of that out before you ever speak to an artist. So this way here, when you contact the artist and you're talking to them for the first time, You're not trying to remember all of the details or all of the important things that you need done, because you've already done it. You've already done it, and you can just copy paste, here you go. Here's what I'm looking for, here's what I need. And then you can have the unscripted sort of conversation to discuss the details. They can ask you more questions. You know, you can provide more information if they need it. That sort of thing. It gives you a good starting point to work from. So prepare a proposal before you contact an artist. So that way, when you contact them, you're ready to go. And things go so much more smoothly than they could. The final thing that I want to stress that you should have prepared before you speak to an artist is to have references ready. If you can draw stick figures, draw out what you're looking for. If you can, do a few lopsided sketches, do so. If you can do good sketches, do so. If you can't, you can, listen to me, you can absolutely go to Google and Google images and copy those images and send those as references. Send them as references. Send them links to where these are. Send them photos of what you're looking for. Collect your references. So that way, you can kind of share with the artist what you're envisioning. And feel free to get really specific about what you're looking for. For me, I usually worry about overloading my artist with references. I worry about it. I'm like, oh, do I have too many references? Am I being too specific? But every single artist that I have worked with has thanked me because I take all of the guesswork out of it for them, and they know right away what it is that I'm looking for. I'll give you an example. To the artist that drew the first initial concept sketch of Paegan here, I had a reference for what I wanted the goggles to look like. I had 3 separate images for that. I had 3 separate images from different angles of what I wanted each part of my hair to look like. I had separate images from different angles of what I wanted my body proportions to be like, my face shape, the shape of my mouth, what I wanted my teeth to look like. It was essentially like a Mr. Potato Head, right? Where I had all of these little pieces and was like, I want this piece here and this piece here and this piece here. These are all the things I want. Please go forth and combine them into a magnificent work of art. And they did. They did a stunning job, I have to say. When I saw the first sketch, I was blown away. It was exactly what I had been envisioning in my mind. It was perfect. I needed only slight revisions, and that was mostly due to, me being a picky little shit. It was me being a picky little shit, and I was like, hey, that's a bit asymmetrical there. Could you maybe just a touch? But having your references ready is going to make it easier for your artist, and it's going to make it easier for you. Because what you have to remember about commissioning an artist is that you are hiring someone to create in either your ears, if it's a voice artist, or something that you can see with your eyes, that only you can see inside your mind. You can see it inside your mind. You know what you want it to look like. The artist is not a mind reader, alright? As nice as it would be, they're not clairvoyant. They can't read your mind. They cannot see the image inside your head of what you are looking for. And it is first and foremost your job to do the absolute best that you can in showing them what that image is. If you do a terrible job of explaining yourself, of explaining what you want and what you're looking for, you've no right to get mad when the artist comes back to you with something that is Not even close. Because that's your fault, not theirs. They're trying. You're not communicating with them. And it can get very difficult because communicating with an artist, it's like they speak a different language. You may have to learn some of the lingo for the way that they process things. And this comes with time and it takes practice. But it's not as hard as you think. It's not. Give it a try. Write out your proposals, get your references ready, and try talking to an artist. See how it goes for you. And I'm going to drink some tea here so that I don't, die. Elton, yes, that's a wonderful point. That's a wonderful point, is that references are really useful for artists, no matter how skilled they are. I think it's easier a lot of the time to kind of have this thought that, oh, this is a fantastic artist, they've done great work, they do a bunch of commissions, therefore they should know what I'm looking for. They don't. Again, they're not mind readers. They can't see what you're looking for in your mind. Now, an experienced artist, or someone who's very experienced working with commissions, will have had the practice of talking to people who want to commission art, and they'll sort of start to get a feel for what a commissioner says versus what they mean. And so it makes working with them a lot easier. But at the same time, you can pick up those skills as well. You can start to learn what you say versus what an artist understands. And you can kind of adjust and make it easier on their end. And if you can find that sort of compromise between the two, things will go so smoothly for you. It's going to be so much easier. It really is. So, in that aspect of learning how to communicate with your artist, let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the ways to best communicate with an artist. Be clear and direct. Be clear and direct with what you need. Don't worry about sounding bossy or sounding like you're asking for too much or that you have too many directions. Don't worry about it. You can still be kind. You can still be gentle, you can still be understanding. You don't have to scream at someone that I want this, and this. You don't have to do that. But it's all right and preferable for you to tell an artist, I want my hair colour to be, here's the hex code for it. I would like highlights in my hair to be lighter rather than doing your shading in a deeper tone. I would like no outlines on my artwork. I would like no backgrounds. I would like whatever it is that you want and you need, be clear about it and be direct. Alright? Let them know right up front before any money changes hands what you want, what you need, and what you're looking for. And if they're not able to provide it, if they're not comfortable with providing it, if they don't have that skill, if that's outside of their wheelhouse of what they do, an artist will let you know that. They will tell you, you know what, this sounds great, but I'm sorry, I can't do this for you. Or, you know what, I can't do this. This isn't what I do. I don't have the skills. I don't think my art style will be a match for what you're looking for. And it sucks to hear that. It does, especially if it's an artist that you really like their work. But they know what they can do and their capabilities better than you do. Alright? They know better than you do what they can and cannot do. So if you can be clear and direct about what you need and what you're looking for, you'll end up with a better relationship with an artist and you'll end up with a better result. Alright? Be clear about what you're looking for. And I'm seeing some great points here in the chat. From Elton Rudders, the effort essentially goes both ways. You put your best foot forward by communicating clearly, and in return, they give you amazing art. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And Darth says, well, compassion is essential for any artist or content creator relationship, but being firm is also an asset. It is. It absolutely is. And we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that in just a moment here. Elton, the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can be kind and still be firm in what you want. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to be. And you have to be. You're buying a product. You're buying a product, right? You don't walk into the Walmart going, well, I need a new pair of sneakers. I'd like some sneakers. I need sneakers. I know. I would like them to ideally be one for my left foot and one for my right foot, and having laces would be great. You're not going to walk out of there with a pair of work boots that are 2 left feet, right? You didn't get what you came for. It's not going to do you any good. And you're not going to be writing a letter to, the shoe company saying, "I thank you so much for these great 2 left boots when I wanted sneakers." Doesn't work out for you, doesn't work out for anyone. So, the next part of communicating with your artist, you've been clear and direct about what you need. You've talked to them, they believe that they can fulfill, what you're looking for. You guys work out payment and all of that. You need to value their experience, but not more than your needs. Alright, and I'm not just talking about when it comes to how much you should be paying them, or I don't think their art is worth as much money as they're asking for. I'm not talking about that at all. Alright? Artists are people, they have experience, it takes skill, it takes time and effort and learning and practice and all of that to create the art that they provide. They're perfectly within their rights to charge whatever the fuck they feel like for their art. Alright? I'm not here to dispute that. What I am talking about here is that you should value their experience and what they can do, and allow them to have a little bit of creative license about things and to trust some of their instincts, Are you really familiar on where the best place to put shadows are? Do you understand lighting and direction properly? Or is it maybe better to let the artist, have that license and to know the certain things that they need to do? And it is important. It is important. They have skills that you don't. They have experience that you don't. But at the same time, you have a particular need. You have a particular desire. And you should get what you came for. Right? Don't let an artist talk you into something different than what you want. Now, you can absolutely take their input if it's something smaller, or they're like, you know what, I know you wanted to do it this way, but I think it might be better if we went about it in a different sort of way and that sort of thing. Be open to that. Be open to their experience. But at the same time, you should not be sitting here letting an artist tell you, well, I know that you wanted short hair and that's what you were asking for, but I drew your character with this long flowing hair that goes down past their thighs and I think it looks great and you should use that instead. No, thank you. No, it looks great and I mean well done, but no, it's not what I'm asking for. It's not what I'm asking for. Not what I'm looking for. I'd like what I asked for, please. So there is a balance there between listening to your artist and valuing their experience and the things that they know and the skills that they have, and allowing them some creative license to give you a truly amazing piece of art. But you also need to keep in mind that you're looking for something in particular, and you should be getting what you came for. Alright, I have seen far too many people start working with artists for the first time, and I watch as they, they get back their first sketch, or they get back their finished, gods below, their finished products, and they're like, well, it's not exactly what I wanted, but it still does look good. It looks really nice. And I'm just like, you paid for this. You paid for this artwork. You paid for this. You gave someone money to create something. It should be exactly what you wanted, not sort of close. And Elton in the chat, I came here for a white t-shirt, but I guess these purple boots are fine too. Yes, that's exactly the attitude that I see a lot of people having. And you know what? I get it. It can be hard to say no. It can be hard. A lot of us don't like conflict. But you have to learn. You have to learn that if you came here for something, you should be leaving with what you came here for. You know, you don't walk into Walmart for a toothbrush and leave with soda. I mean, you might leave with a toothbrush and a soda, but you don't just walk in and go, oh, well, you know what? I think I'll use this hairbrush on my teeth. Yeah, that'll work. That's close enough. It's still a brush. It's still a brush. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's not fine. It's not fine. So the last thing that I have to say when it comes to how to communicate with your artist is learn to walk away. Learn to walk away. If you're talking to an artist and you're discussing details and it becomes clear for any reason that this is not the right artist for you to be working with, walk away. Walk away. I don't care if they're a friend of yours. I don't care if they are a friend of yours. I don't care if you really love their work and you've waited 6 months to have the chance to work with them. As you're talking to them, if you're having problems communicating with them, if they're treating you disrespectfully, if you can't get across what you're looking for, if it feels like they're not listening to you, if, you know, what you're trying to tell them and what they're understanding is just completely different, walk away. Walk away. Walk away. If you're not going to get what you want out of this artist, what you need to walk away. You're not under any sort of obligation just because you reached out to them to actually commission them. Just because you've had a conversation with someone and maybe you've shown them your references. Just because you've done that, you're not under any obligation to go through with the transaction. And as Elton is saying in the chat right here, it is a bit cold. But you do need to realise that it's a transaction. This is a business transaction between you and the person that you're talking to. Alright? You're not responsible for their feelings. You owe them nothing. This is a business transaction. And if it's not going to work out well for you, if it's not the right budget, if it's not the right time frame, if it's not the right quality of work, if it's not a million things, walk away. It doesn't make you a bad person. It should not make you feel bad. Walk away. I've walked away from countless artists, and there is an art to it. There is an art to it, to being diplomatic. It can be difficult to find the right words to say, I appreciate your time, but having talked to you, it's come to my attention that I don't think we're a good fit, and I'd like to look elsewhere. It can be hard, it's an uncomfortable thing to say, but you have to learn how to do it. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself spending a bunch of money on art that you don't want, don't need, and can't use, and you're also going to have a huge headache on your hands because you're unable to communicate properly with the artist. Right? And that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. If your artist takes 12 hours to get back to you every time you talk to them, that's going to be a problem. If your artist can't understand what you're saying, if maybe there's a language barrier, or maybe you two just can't find that space where you can freely transfer ideas from your brain to theirs and back, walk away. Trying harder with an artist that you're having trouble with is not going to make the process any easier. All it's going to do is take more time from you away from the other things that you're trying to do. It's going to be a headache. And it's going to make you just not want to work with them anymore. It's going to make you just give up and go, you know what? Whatever you have is fine. It's fine. You don't want that. So learn to walk away if you have to. There's no shame in it. So, we've talked about where you can find artists to work with. We've talked about how to prepare for talking to an artist. We've talked about a couple of ways to communicate with your artist. Now I would like to talk to you guys about some best practices, some things that I have found working with artists myself. This is both through my outside background, working with, artists and that sort of thing, as well as working with artists specifically in the content creation space. So these are some things that I advise you to look at, to think about, some tips and tricks that have worked for me. Any of you that are, out here in the chat, or if you're watching this video, I'd like to know what are some of the things that have worked for you. And if any of you happen to be artists, I would love your perspective on these things as we go through. I really would. So, best practices. Best practices for working with artists. The first one is to have a budget. Have a budget planned out. Know what you intend to spend and try to be a bit flexible with your budget. For me personally, I go for whatever piece of art that I'm looking at, that I need. I go, here is what I would ideally like to spend. Right, like, in a perfect world, this is how much I would like to spend. And then I go, how much is this asset worth to me? How much am I willing to spend on the high end? And I have those numbers written out in front of me before I talk to an artist. And I always put out that low number first. So if I say, ideally, I would like to spend $60 on this, but I know in my mind that I am willing to spend up to $120 on it, right? Twice that. I don't put out that $120 mark. I don't do that. That's just asking for every single person that contacts you to want $120. Don't do that. But I will put out, I'm looking to spend about $60, but I am flexible. This way here, when I start talking to the artist and I get into the details and all of that, I will ask them, what will it cost for you to give me what I need? Right? A lot of artists will try to work with you within your budget, but what I have found works best is to have your basic budget out there and known, and let them know that you are flexible. Discuss your details, because if they're talking to you after you've told them what your approximate budget is, then you know about that price will work for them. If around that price won't work for them, they won't be talking to you. They won't be talking to you about it, right? So then you talk to them about what it is that you need. Discuss your details, let them know everything, and once you feel that they have a good idea of what you need, ask them what their asking price is. Now that they have all of the information and all of that, ask them, how much would you like to provide me what I am asking for? Now, if you have a good artist, they will have a good grasp on what you're asking for, what you're looking for, what their skills are, how much time it's going to take them. And they will give you a price. They'll tell you a price. And especially when you're working with commission artists, I find that this is very, very important to do, because commission artists tend to have commission sheets where they'll tell you, oh, it's going to be $30 for a headshot, it's going to be $50 for bust up, it's going to be, $100 for full body, whatever their pricing happens to be, right? And that's their baseline pricing. But you're not just buying a suit off a rack, right? You have a custom project. You have your own needs. You have your own desires and your own details. So once you've discussed those details with them, ask them, what is your asking price for what I am asking of you? And it'll probably be a bit more than, what you ideally would like to get it for. They'll shoot you off a number. If that number is acceptable to you, right? If it's within that range of what am I actually willing to pay, then you're good to go. If it's not within that range that you're willing to pay, walk away. I do not recommend at all that you sit there and you argue or you haggle with an artist. Don't do it. Walk away, find a different artist. You're totally fine to tell them, and what I usually say is, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you taking the effort, and I think you do great work, but my budget for this piece, that's a bit too much. I don't want to haggle with you. I don't want to, you're free to value things however you are, and I'm not going to insult you by haggling over your price, but I don't think this is a good fit, and I'm going to go elsewhere. Right? Be respectful. Be respectful of the artist and their skills. If you're going to haggle with them to try to get the best price, you're not respecting their skills. You're not respecting their craft. You're basically telling them that I think you're worth less than what you're asking for. Just don't do it. Have your budget, have it planned out, and work within your budget. That's it. It's very easy to do. Now, that's not to say when you tell the artist, you know what, you're a bit outside of my budget, thank you for your time. On occasion, an artist will tell you, will ask you, what is your budget? And you can tell them what your budget is. If you're willing to go up to $120 and they're asking for, $135, you can tell them it's outside my budget. The artist might make the decision that I can work with your budget. I can work with that. But that's strictly on their side. You should never try to force them to do it. That is their choice. Alright? Very important. So, the next best practice that I want to share with you guys that I have found is have a deadline. Have a deadline. Have a deadline and be firm. When you're talking to an artist, when you're commissioning, you have your plan and you have your proposal. Have a flippin' deadline for when you need the work done by. I cannot tell you how many people I have seen who get so excited. I just commissioned art from this great artist and I'm so excited for it. And I go, oh, cool, when will you have it? And they're like, I don't know. Whenever it's done. I cannot tell you how many people I personally know that have commissioned an artist, they've given them money, and here we are 3 months later, 6 months later, and they still don't have their finished artwork. Not to say that the artist cut and ran and just ghosted. I know, they can still contact the artist and the artist still replies and tells them, I'm still working on it, I'm still going. But 6 months later, I cannot imagine commissioning anything whatsoever that's going to take 6 months. I can't do it. I cannot imagine it. You have your plan, you're getting artwork because you need it for something. You know when you need it by. You need to let your artist know when you need something by. They need to have a deadline. Now, I recommend, of course, that you, before you go and talk to the artist, you know when you need something by. Let's say you plan to have this live on your stream in 2 weeks' time. So you tell the artist, I need this done in a week. This way here, you have plenty of time to do what you need to do on your end with it. And you also have some buffer time in between in case something happens with your artist. In case they get sick, in case they lose power, in case you need a lot of revisions, whatever it is, you have that buffer time, right? If you're not sure how much time you actually need, talk to your artist. Talk to your artist. When you ask them about how much they're asking for to do what you need them to do, ask them, how long do you think it's going to take you to do this? And listen to them. They know their skills, they know their work ethic, they know their schedules, they know their backlog, they know how long it's going to take them. And if they don't, if they do not know, if they do not have a turnaround time that they can provide to you, walk away. Walk away. No ifs, ands or buts. If you ask them, what do you think the turnaround time on this will be? And they tell you, I have no idea. Walk away. Walk away, find a different artist. For me, personally, when I'm commissioning an artist, after I ask them what their budget, about the budget, what they would like for the work, I have my artists set their own deadlines. I have them set their own deadlines. I say, how long will this take you? What is your turnaround time? You tell me what your turnaround time is. And if they tell me a turnaround time that fits within my own timeline, within my own deadline for when I need it by, I say, all right, perfect. And I'll look, if they say it's 1 to 2 weeks, don't just accept 1 to 2 weeks. Look at your calendar. Look at the calendar, find the date where 1 to 2 weeks will land on, and give them a date and say, so is October 25th a good date? Is this a good due date? And have them accept the due date. If it's not, they will let you know. They will let you know. Set a due date. It's so critical to have a deadline. You need to have this. Not only for you, but for the artist as well. And if the artist that you're looking at working with is unwilling to commit to a deadline, walk away. Walk away. Now, I am not suggesting that if an artist says to you, well, an artist might say to you, normally something like this would take me 3 to 4 days, but I have a bit of a backlog. I probably won't be able to sort it for a week. And then it would be 3 to 4 days after that you should walk away. If you have the time to wait for something like that, by all means, that's a perfectly acceptable answer. To say, it'll take me 3 to 4 days. And they've also let you know, I have a bunch of projects that I have to sort first, so I won't be able to get to it to a week. So you know, alright, it's going to be a week plus 3 to 4 days. That's an acceptable timeline. Totally fine. You can work with that. You can work with that. However, if they just tell you, I don't really know, I have a bunch of work piled up and I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to get through it, and then, I don't know how long it'll take me to do your piece, just walk away. Just walk away. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your effort. They're not going to be able to commit to a timeline, and you're going to find yourself having to give them extension after extension after extension. Hello, Lauren. Hello. That's something that I have personally noticed. Artists, things happen, right? Things happen. Everyone has things going on in their own lives, whether it be computer issues or an emergency with their family or someone gets sick. Things happen. And so I always try to plan in time with my deadlines so that if something does happen and an artist comes back to me and goes, I am so sorry, my mum is sick, she's in the hospital, whatever, I need a few more days to get this done, I can go, no worries, don't worry about it. Couple more days, I can wait until Friday for it or whatever. Let me know what's going on. Take care of you. Real life comes first. Because I've built that time into my timeline, right? I've built that buffer time into my plan and into my deadline with them. If you can do that, things will go so much more smoothly for you. And you also won't find yourself in a position where you have to choose. Where you have to choose between my deadline or just genuinely being a good human being, right? Nobody wants to find themselves in a position that goes, well, I know your mum's in the hospital, but I have a show to do and I paid you a lot of money for this, I kind of need it, right? You never want to find yourself in that position. You want to be able to say, hey, no worries, we get it. Life is life, things happen, right? But at the same time, you need to make sure that you're not just doing that all the time, over and over and over again. I set my deadlines with an artist. I allow them to pretty much set their deadlines themselves. And I know from my own schedule that I have padded in usually an extra week from that deadline before I actually truly need the thing. And if someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm so sorry, I need a bit more time, I say it's no worries, and I let them go through, and I've got that week. If you come to me again after that and you're like, hey, so I still don't, this is where I get upset, because I go, not only did I allow you to set your own deadline, not only did I work with you about how long it was going to take you, not only was I understanding of the fact that you needed a bit more time, but now you're taking advantage of me and my goodwill on this business transaction that we are doing. This is when I start to get upset. I will get a bit testy, I will become cold, I will become very businesslike, and I will just ask, when can you have it by? Because some people will try to with the fact that, oh, the first time it wasn't a big deal, they're totally understanding, and that will grow and grow and grow. Funder. I kind of do the same. I let them take as long as they need, but I do frequently check up and ask them, because artists are people with real lives and real problems. We cannot rush them if they're suffering in real life. Yes, it's a fine line, and it's a very difficult line to find, because we understand that artists are other people and things happen. This is why I try to build in extra buffer time, so if something does go wrong, I don't have to pressure them. I don't have to make the decision between, this is my business, or I'm a decent person who understands that you're also a person, right? But there has to be a line. You have to find a line for yourself that says, this is for a business. This is a business transaction. And if you, as someone who's out here actively taking commissions, if you're taking commissions and you're unable to fulfill them over an extended period of time, you should not be taking commissions, right? If you're not able to go to work, if you have a 9-to-5 job, a traditional 9-to-5 job, and you start calling out all the time and you're not there and you're not able to come in and do the job, you get fired. You get fired or you get asked to resign because you're not able to do the job that you need to perform. When it comes to commission work, things happen. Things happen, computer issues happen, internet issues happen, real life stuff happens. It happens from time to time. If you need an extra day or two, I get it. If you need an extra week, I try to be understanding. Hopefully I have the time built in. If not, I go, hey, no worries, can we just forget the commission and I will go somewhere else? But it's when someone comes to you and, you had a deadline date. You had a deadline date for Monday. And they come to you Monday and they go, hey, I'm so sorry. These things happened in my life. Can I please have a couple of more days? And you go, yeah, no worries. No worries. Let's plan for Friday. Would that work? And they go, yeah, absolutely. I could have it for you for Friday. And then Friday comes around and they go, hey, I'm so sorry. I still don't have it. I just need a bit more time. And you try to be understanding and you go, okay, I get it. No worries. Real life comes first. How's next Tuesday? And the next Tuesday comes around and it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. There has to be a line for you. For you as the person with the money, the person who is paying the artist, there has to be a line for you of when it's no longer acceptable. You have to find that line. And hopefully you already know where that line is for yourself because you have a plan. And when you reach that line, if you do reach that line, if someone pushes you to that line, you know how to walk away. Those two things are very important. And those are the two things that I see time and time and time again, especially in the VTuber community, because we are all so kind and understanding and we're all just positive and happy and supportive of each other. We forget that it's okay to have that line of, I'm not willing to put up with this anymore. But I'm telling you, as a content creator, you need to have that line. You need to be firm. It's okay to have it, and you have to have it. Learn in the chat here. One time an artist messaged me asking to do work for me, and they wouldn't take no for an answer, so I blocked them. There you go. Be firm. Be firm. That same artist wanted $60 up front and over double for the final product, so I immediately said no. Yep. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about stuff like that in just a little while here, but oh yeah, artists can get, it can get dicey. It can get dicey. So, you have your budget, you have your deadline. My next best practice for you is to ask for revisions. That's it. Ask for revisions. If an artist comes to you and you've commissioned them and they come to you with a sketch, or even if they come to you with a final product and it's not exactly what you're looking for, or if something's just a bit off, or you'd like some changes, ask for them. Don't just go, oh, well, it's finally done and thanks so much, even if the hair's not quite right or, the foot is a little backwards. Ask for revisions. You can do that. You can do that. Ask for revisions. Artists should expect that you're going to ask for revisions. Now, there are ideal times to ask for revisions, such as during the initial sketch. When you get a sketch from an artist, when you're talking to them, you should, ideally, in my personal opinion, get a flippin' sketch before you send them a ton of money. Now, some artists will ask for a small deposit or something like that before giving you a sketch. That's perfectly fine. It's all up to what you're comfortable with. But you should get a sketch before you pay them a bunch of money, before you pay them half, before you pay them the whole thing. Not only to make sure that they're capable of doing the work that you're asking for, but you guys are on the same page of what you're looking for. And you can tell that with the initial sketch. Now, the best time to ask for revisions is during that sketching process. Work with the artist on the sketch to get things exactly the way that you want them. Because let me tell you, an artist is not going to be happy if they go through and do all of the work, whether it be animation or shading and colouring and rounding out of everything, and then you go, oh hey, by the way, can we change the position of that arm? They're not going to be happy about that, because that is a lot more work for them. So if you need big changes done, if things aren't right, if you change your mind about anything like that, or what you're seeing is not what you're looking for, during the sketch is when you ask for your revisions. Ask for the revisions during the sketch. That's when you should get all of the major work done. And then you let them go and work towards the finished product. Now, when you get to the finished product, you can still ask for revisions. You should not feel ashamed about asking for revisions. But because you spent time asking for revisions during the sketch, any revisions that you're asking for at the finished product stage will be minor. They'll be slight things. They'll be like, hey, could we maybe change the colour on this a little bit? Can we brighten it up? It's a bit too dark, or it's a bit too light. Can we darken it a little bit? They're going to be minor things like that are not going to take the artist, 12 days to fix. They're minor things. So there's definitely a time to ask for revisions, to ask for certain types of revisions, but ask for flippin' revisions. Getting revisions is how you get what you pay for. Just because an artist presents you something doesn't mean that is what you're looking for, and it does not mean that they're going to be offended if you ask them to change something. Right, I know that's a thing that a lot of people worry about, and at first I kind of worried about it myself. I kind of felt like, oh no, I'm critiquing this person's art, and they're going, it's almost like I know better than they do how to do their art, and this is uncomfy. It's natural to feel that way, it's normal to feel that way, but you're not critiquing their art. You're not telling them that they did a bad job. You're not telling them that their art sucks. You're just telling them, hey, what you've made and what I'm looking for aren't the same thing. That's it. That's all you're telling them. And if you're working with a good artist, they're going to have no problem changing things, working on revisions with you, especially if you're doing it in that sketch portion. At the end of the day, you need to remember that you are buying a product. You're buying a product. Get what you pay for. Don't just get whatever they give you. Work with your artist to get what you want and what you need. Alright? Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I hope it does. The next bit of advice that I have, the next best practice, is to know and protect your rights. Know and protect your rights. Now this, you guys, I know right now, this is going to be a controversial thing to get into. Very controversial thing. But I firmly believe this. I believe it's very important that we talk about it. And how are we going to get into it? But before that, I'm going to drink some tea. Because this one is a doozy. Alright, tea has been drunk. I am ready. Are you guys ready? Feel free to ask me. When you are commissioning artwork or voiceovers or anything else, it is incredibly important that you pay attention to and know your rights. Now, a lot of artists are going to have terms of service of working with them. If your artist does not have terms of service, you need to make it clear for them what your own terms of service are. If your artist does have a terms of service, make sure that you read through it thoroughly, completely, and entirely. And if their terms of service does not match up with what you need, what you're looking for, or what you are willing to accept, you need to walk away. Now, what am I talking about in particular here? I am talking about copyright. I am talking about copyright and intellectual property rights when it comes to the artwork that you are commissioning. Now, this is very important for you to understand. A lot of commission artists out there operate under an idea that is incorrect. That is incorrect and frankly wrong. Alright? I don't blame them for not understanding how this works. A lot of them are simply doing this because they believe this is how it's done. They see other people doing it, and so this is what they do because this is how it works. But there are, of course, some bad actors who they understand how it works, and therefore they are using this in order to make as much money off of you as humanly possible. Alright? So yes, there are those bad actors out there that are doing it specifically. They understand and they know exactly what it is that they are doing. But a lot of artists, a lot of commission artists out there, especially ones that are just starting out or that are younger, you know, they're not doing it in a malicious or a bad sort of way. They are just uneducated about the topic and they're misinformed about how things work. When it comes to copyright, particularly. Now, for those of you who have worked with a commission artist before, if you could, please just put a 1 in the chat. If you have worked with a commission artist before, or you've seen a commission sheet that mentions pricing for full copyright, pricing for commercial licensing fees, pricing for reproduction fees, let me know. Have you guys seen this? I truly need to know, because I have seen them everywhere, and I have seen people have them and just think that this is how it works. Now for you, as a content creator, if you are commissioning anything, if you're commissioning anything at all, you need to have the copyright to that image. There was a big scandal not too long ago about a VTuber who did not, or supposedly did not, own the copyright to her own model, to her own body. The person who had created it came after her and said, "You need to pay me money because you don't own the copyright." First of all, you want to never find yourself in that situation. You never want to find yourself in a situation where an artist that you have worked with, that you have commissioned, and that you have paid money for, is going to try to strike your channel, try to copyright strike you, or try to extort you for more money. You need to make sure when you are commissioning artwork to use on your YouTube videos, on your live streams, on your Twitter, wherever you're commissioning artwork, You need to make sure that wherever you're using it for, you have full and total rights to that artwork. It makes sense, right? We've talked at length about owning the things that you use on stream, not using copyrighted works. Now, unfortunately, within the commission art world, a lot of people have gotten into this practice and into this habit that I will charge you $60 to draw this thing that you need, but I still own the copyright. They believe that by making a piece of art, they inherently own the copyright to that piece of art. Some of them carry it over into, they also believe that they own the design, so that you can't even have a different artist make the same design in their own style. And it's easy to understand where this idea came from, because as an artist, if you draw something as an artist, you own that design, you own that piece of artwork. That is yours. You own the copyright for it. That's just how it works. I'm not disputing that. You are absolutely correct there. Absolutely correct there, and artists are correct. However, when it comes to being a commission artist, that is not how it works. You don't own the copyright to the work that you created. You don't own the IP rights to the work that you created. You don't own the design rights to the work that you created. That is not how it works. You were not going to make this piece of art until someone commissioned you to do so. You did not have the idea. It was not your idea. It was not something that you came up with. It's not something that you did on your own. You were commissioned to do this. You do not automatically own the copyright to this work. And I will explain this a bit more in a minute. But because of this confusion that exists with commission artists about their artwork and who holds the copyright, a lot of the times you will see people that will have one price for their work and then another price for IP rights, broadcast rights, or copyright concerns. Alright? Now, here's the thing. The way this works is that because they have a terms of service that specifically tells you this is the price for copyright, they are telling you, I will make you this work, but I specifically am going to hold the copyright on it unless you pay me for that copyright. It's weird the way copyright law works. It's very weird. It's a complicated system. It's very difficult to navigate, especially if you don't know about it. But the very act of them telling you, I'm going to retain the copyright for what I make unless you buy it from me, gives them the copyright to the work that they are creating for you. Alright? If they don't explicitly say that, you own the copyright. You own the copyright for that work. And we'll get into why that is. Now, I want to back up what I'm saying here just a little bit so that you can understand this is not just my view on things. This is not just my take. It's not just my personal opinion. This is actual copyright law. According to Section 101 of the Copyright Act, Title 17 of the US Code defines work made for hire in two parts. Alright? And commissioning an artist is work made for hire. Alright, so it is defined thusly: a work prepared by an employee within the scope of his or her employment. So, for example, if you're an artist and you've been hired by a game developer to work on their game and to create assets for their game, you do not own the copyright to the assets that you are creating as part of your job. Unless the company specifically tells you that you own the copyright to these things that you are creating, you do not by default own them. Alright? But, so that's the first part. The second part is defined as a work specifically ordered or commissioned for use. So even though a commissioned artist is not an employee, you are commissioning them for use. You're commissioning them to make something that you are going to use. Nobody is out here paying an artist to just draw me a pretty picture that I'm just going to put on my wall as a content creator. No, you're out here commissioning artwork to use for your content. You're commissioning it specifically for use. This means the person creating the artwork that you are paying is work for hire and does not hold the default copyright of creating artwork unless you specifically agree to it and they specifically say this is their terms of service. Alright, and just quickly from the US law, I want to go over what is written here. And this says, work specifically ordered or commissioned for use, which can be, but is not limited to, as a contribution to a collective work, as part of a motion picture or other audio-visual work. Audio-visual, hello there. That's what we do here. As a translation, as a supplementary work, as a compilation, as an instructional text, as a test, as answer material for a test, or as an atlas. It also is going to apply any time that the parties expressly agree in written instrument signed by them that work shall be considered a work made for hire. Now, what this means is all of those things that I've just listed off automatically work for hire. Anything else that you commission, if you guys sit down and say, you know what, this is work for hire, it doesn't matter what it is. If you sign down and say that this is work for hire, it's work for hire. The law also defines as supplementary work as work performed for a publication as a secondary adjunct to a work by another author for the purpose of introducing, concluding, illustrating, explaining, revising, commenting upon, or assisting in the other work of, as such forwards, afterwards, pictorial illustrations, maps, charts, tables, editorial notes, musical arrangements, answer materials for text, bibliographies, appendixes, and indexes. Alright, so it covers a lot of things. A lot of things. But the part that I want you to take away from this is that when you commission an artist, you own the copyright for the product that they produce. Period. Now, for a long time, that's how it worked. That's how artists and people understood it to work, because that is the law. At some point, there was some sort of confusion that happened, and I truly believe that this was spurned on by some bad actors. I firmly believe that somewhere along the line, someone went, well, they own the copyright to my work, unless I tell them specifically that they don't. And if I tell them specifically that they don't, then they have to pay me more money in order to buy the copyright from me. I make more money this way. And I believe that this is where it started. And in my perfectly honest opinion, a pretty shitty fucking thing to do. It just is. It just is. If you need more money for your work, then you need to charge more money for your work. You need to not accept, contracts that aren't going to pay you what your time is worth or what it's valued. You don't make more money by selling people the copyright to the work that you wouldn't have made if they didn't commission you in the first place. Alright? That's bullshit. It's stupid. Stop that. Stop it right now. However, as I stated before, I do not believe that that is the reason why a lot of artists are out here charging, base price plus, commercial rights plus broadcasting rights plus these. I don't believe that they're doing it just to try to milk you of more money. I don't believe that at all. I truly think that a reason why a lot of artists do this is because they just simply don't know any better. They see that this is how it's done, and how artists that they look up to and that they interact with, this is how they do it. And so, without knowing the law or understanding how it works, they believe that this is how it's done. So, hopefully, after seeing this, you guys know and understand what your rights are with commissioning someone for artwork. You know that by commissioning someone, you are hiring someone to do work for hire, and therefore, all rights belong to you. Now, just because you know this, does not mean that the artist knows this, okay? And while it can be difficult, it can be very hard to have to sit there and educate someone on how this works, you kind of have a bit of a responsibility to do so. Not only because it's just the right thing to do, to make sure that the artist knows what they're getting into in terms of accepting your commission, but to just let them know. Let them know, hey, I want you to understand this and make sure that you're still comfortable doing this work. I want you to know what working for me, what taking my commission entails. I find this to be a best practice, transparency and openness with someone that you're working with, to let them know. Alright? On the flip side of that coin, however, we did mention, right, that if you agree that they hold the copyright, if their terms of service specifically state that they hold the copyright, and you don't bring up the fact that this is work for hire, I own the copyright, I will have full rights to this when we are done, you are now subject to their own terms and conditions, and they own your copyright because you did not explicitly tell them that no, they do not. So a best practice when you're talking to an artist, before all the money changes hands, you need to make certain that they understand they are performing work for hire and you are taking the copyright. You hold the full copyrights to it. Now for me, personally, the way I approach it, myself, the way I do this, you're going to have to find your own way to do it. You might want to draw up a contract, you might want to, however you decide to do it, it's up to you. How I personally do it, I let the artist know that I am only interested in working with them in a work for hire manner. I want full copyright, full IP rights. I am going to maintain these things. I am more than happy to give them credits in my credits panel on my Twitch or in my YouTube descriptions on videos where their work appears. I'm more than happy to do that. I am also more than happy to allow them to maintain the work that they have done for me for their portfolio, as long as they take adequate steps to prevent that work from being stolen. You know, I want it to be watermarked or something like that. But if they've done work for me and they want to show it off as part of their portfolio to help them get more commissions, I'm totally fine with that. But I make it clear that I am only interested in work for hire and in full copyright rights, full IP rights, period. Now, I've had a lot of artists try to tell me, no, that's not how it works. At which point I say, you're totally free to believe that. You're wrong. Here's the US copy law. But I understand. Thank you for your time. I will go elsewhere. And I do go elsewhere. I've also had artists tell me, oh, well, I charge more for copyright because if I don't make enough money. At which point I tell them, well then, it sounds like you're valuing your time and your artwork improperly, because you should be making your money off of your artwork, not off of selling people the copyright rights to things that you don't own. So you need to raise your prices. Let's discuss what it would actually take for you to perform the work as needed, including knowing and understanding that you don't own this work anymore once you're done. And I have talked to artists about that, and I end up, coming to a conclusion wherein they say, okay, the price goes up. I'm totally fine working with people that way. Where I walk away when it comes to that is when someone tells me it's going to be $60 for the artwork. And I say, all right, that's full copyright work for hire. I go through my whole deal. And they go, no. If you want the copyright, then it's going to be an additional 50% for the IP of the design. It's going to be 50% for reproduction rights. It's going to be another 25% if you ever want to put this on merch. And the point where their fees, I've had people try to tell me that they will happily make a piece of art for $60. And then, because I want to be able to put it on merch if I so feel, if I want to be able to reproduce it, if I want to be able to have another artist take a crack at the design, it's going to end up costing me close to $300. They charge $60 for the art. They're perfectly fine charging $60 for the art. But if you're going to use that art for anything where you might potentially make more money, well, they want a piece of that, don't they? And that, to me, is inherently scummy. It's inherently shady. It's telling me that you as a commission artist, you value my ideas, my work, my ability to create content and to market myself more than you value the art you actually create. So personally for me, where I walk away is when someone wants fees for all of these things that add up to be considerably more than the base artwork itself. Obviously, your total price is likely going to be a bit more when you start having this conversation with people. But if they were saying, it'll cost you $60, and then they go, well, actually, it's going to cost you like $300. That's when I go, no thanks, and I walk away. I also personally keep screenshots of these conversations. I keep screenshots of where the artist agrees that this is work for hire, I own the copyright, all of this. For the artists that do provide invoices for their commissions, I ask for something to be on the invoice itself that just states full copyright transfer, full IP design rights belong to Paegan Pixie. I do those things, and I keep them in a file. So that at any point, if someone were to try to come to me and go, hey, that background scene, I drew that, you didn't buy the copyright from me, I own that, I can go, yeah, no, that's not how it works. You did for me work for hire, You specifically agreed that you understood what work for hire was, and here, look, here's you pointing it out. Here's you agreeing specifically that this is work for hire. I know my rights, and I protect myself because I know my rights. And when it comes to working with an artist, the biggest and important thing that I want to impress upon you is to do the same. Know your rights and protect your rights, and be willing to walk away. So, there we go, guys. That's it. That is all that I have for you today on working with artists. I know the end there, bit controversial, lot of information. Copyright is a pain. But I hope that you learned something. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you could, if you're watching the live stream right now, or if you're watching the video after the live stream is over, if you've learned anything, if anything was insightful to you, if anything was helpful, please hit that thumbs up button on the stream or on the video. It really, really helps out more than you know. The algorithm is insanity. It'll really help me out. And if you like this content, if you like these workshops, if you like my perspective, and you want to see more, please hit that subscription button, subscribe to the YouTube. It would mean the world to me. I am trying to get to 200 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. I know it's a very small number. It's a very, very small number, but I think it's realistic. I think we can do it, and I would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. Other than that, a huge thank you, as always, to everyone that has been using grooves in the backgrounds of their own streams, in the backgrounds of their videos, or just sitting there listening to it on Spotify or YouTube or anything like that. Thank you guys so much. For those of you that aren't familiar with grooves, it is copyright and royalty-free music for creators and role players. Help yourselves to it. Attribution is not required, but appreciated. And thank you everyone for joining me here today for tea. And until next time, when the groove door opens, I am Paegan O'Ceallaigh. May harmony find you.